Hi crafty friends! In today's video we're going to be making a really cool specimen window using used tea bags. It is pretty easy and you can make it as simple or as fancy as you want. And it goes perfectly in your junk journal in a corner pocket or attached to a page with a paper clip. To start, we need to prepare our tea bags. They've obviously been dried and the tea leaves have been removed from inside. We need 3 strips of the same size. I'm cutting this double. It is folded down each edge of the tea bag. So cutting a double, I'm cutting about 1 centimeter to 1.5 centimeters. When it opens up, it is about 3 centimeters wide, but we need that fold. And then I'm also just making sure that I am removing all the little dry leaves that have remained behind. The length of the strips don't matter at this point because we are going to trim them smaller, as long as our widths are about the same size. And then the 4th strip needs to be a little bit wider. I don't want the seam of the tea bag in my project, so I'm just going to refold the tea bag and trim that off, and I'm going to use this entire piece for the bottom part of my specimen window. For the window part, I'm going to use a piece of acetate. If you don't have acetate, you could also use a piece of laminating sheet that you've put through the laminator. Cellophane would also work, but it is a little flimsy. You want something a little bit more sturdy. Acetate can be found in most stationery shops. I haven't measured anything. I've just cut a piece about the size that I want my card to be. Mine measures 7 centimeters by 10 centimeters. Using a glue stick, I'm applying a little bit of glue to the top edge of the acetate and then sticking down a piece of the tea bag. I then turn it over and apply glue on the other side and fold the tea bag over and then trim the edges. So now you have tea bag on either side with the fold on the edge of the acetate. Repeat the process again on each of the long ends of the acetate. For the 4th piece, we're using the same process. We're just covering a bigger area. You don't have to make the bottom bigger. If you don't want to, you can make them all the same size all the way around. Also, don't worry too much if the front and back bits of the tea bag don't match up exactly when you glue them down. A little bit of wonkiness or roughness is fine. I think it adds to the charm. Once I finished sticking all my tea bags down, I had a look and thought that the bottom was a little too long. It wasn't looking exactly like I wanted, so I'm just going to trim off about 1 centimeter off the bottom. Because the glue is still a little wet, I've just done this with a scissors after ruling a line. Now distressing the edges with some distress ink, I'm using the color Vintage Photo. For my specimens, I'm going to use some butterflies, but you can use anything you like. These butterflies are from Making and Creating, previously known as Digital Collage Club, and I'll put their link in the description box below. You can always use images from a magazine or from old books. You can also even hand draw something, or you can use maybe your child's piece of art, or even just a piece of scrap paper with some writing on. Anything really goes, I think, in specimen windows. Another idea actually is you could add a piece of ephemera, like a bus ticket, and you can add that into your vintage journal. Once I have finished fussy cutting the butterflies, I'm going to stick them down onto the acetate with some glue stick. At this point, the specimen window looks great. You can leave it just like this and use it just like this, but I'm going to add a little bit something more. Using a piece of Hessian thread, I've wrapped it around my finger 3 times to create those small loops and placed them to the bottom left of the window. I've also taken a piece of black thread which contrasts well with the black in one of the butterflies, and I'm going to crumple up that thread and apply that too. I'm just using a stapler to attach this down. You could use glue or you could even hand sew it. I like the staples as they're quick and easy to use. They hold it down well, and I think it adds some really good aesthetic elements to look at. I'm also going to add a sentiment. I have found this one that I want to use. It is black with white text. I've cut it in half thinking I'm going to add it in 2 layers, but then I'm thinking it needs something in the background. So I've torn a piece of scrap paper and I'm thinking I'm going to apply the stickers to that, reattaching them into one long piece as I've now changed my mind. I have ripped the piece to make it a bit smaller. I'm thinking it's a little bit too loud for the bottom and it detracts from the butterflies. So I'm going to trim all the way around, leaving a few millimeters just around like a frame of the sentiment. I'm happy with that and I'm going to stick that down with some hot glue. Before I do that though, I'm thinking that the 3 loops of the Hessian string are too much, so I'm just going to cut one off. So there's just going to be 2 loops and then the black thread. I attach the sentiment with hot glue. I'm feeling it's a little bottom heavy, so I want to add something in the top right hand corner for balance. I have these little cutouts that I can use. They are from a previous kit that I've used. It's just a number that looks like it's handwritten, very vintage looking. So I'm going to cut that out and see how I'm going to use it. It's a little too bright for the look of the sentiment window. I'm going to try another one, see if that's better, but it's the same color. I prefer the numbers, so I'm just going to use some distress ink and go over that just to darken it a little bit. To add a bit more contrast, I'm going to add something more in the top right hand corner before I stick my number down. I cover the rest of my specimen window except the top right hand corner, and then I use watered down black acrylic paint to do some splattering, very fine splattering. I don't want big blobs, I want it very fine just to bring a little bit of that color. I love the way that looks. I have spilled a little bit onto the acetate, which is fine. While it's wet, just take a baby wipe and wipe it off. Dry that well, either leave it to dry on its own or you can use a heat tool. Just be careful because if you go too close and it gets too hot, it can buckle the acetate. Attaching my little vintage number with some hot glue, and then as a final touch, I'm going to add one more staple at the top. I really hope you enjoyed this video and were inspired to create your own specimen windows with tea bags. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. Don't forget to subscribe. Happy creating, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.